The Catholic Church. A beacon of faith for millennia, it stands as a testament to enduring beliefs and traditions that have shaped the lives of billions. From the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica to the humble chapels scattered across the globe, the Church's influence is undeniable, yet within its hallowed halls a storm brews. Tradition clashes with progress, creating a dynamic tension that reverberates through every corner of this ancient institution. This is not just a story of faith, but of power, identity, and the future of one of the world's oldest institutions. At the heart of this tempest stand two figures, Cardinal Burke and Pope Francis. Their clash is not merely a personal disagreement, but a reflection of a larger struggle within the Church itself. Cardinal Burke, a staunch defender of orthodoxy, represents the old guard. He is a guardian of tradition, a voice that calls for adherence to the Church's ancient doctrines. His vision is one of a church that remains steadfast in its teachings, unyielding in the face of modern pressures. On the other side stands Pope Francis, a humble pastor with a vision of a church that embraces the modern world. He is a champion of the poor and marginalized, advocating for a church of mercy and compassion. His approach is one of inclusivity, seeking to bring the church closer to the people it serves. The tension between these two figures is palpable. It is a microcosm of the larger struggle within the Church, a struggle to reconcile its timeless teachings with the complexities of the 21st century. This is a story of faith challenged, of power questioned, and of an uncertain future. As the world changes rapidly, the Church finds itself at a crossroads. The faithful look to their leaders for guidance, torn between the comfort of tradition and the call for progress. Cardinal Burke and Pope Francis embody these opposing forces, each with their own vision for the future of the Church. Cardinal Burke's voice is a clarion call for orthodoxy. He believes that the Church's strength lies in its unwavering commitment to its doctrines. For him, the path forward is one of steadfastness, holding firm to the teachings that have guided the Church for centuries. His supporters see him as a bulwark against the tides of change, a protector of the faith in its purest form. They fear that too much change could dilute the Church's message and weaken its influence. Pope Francis, on the other hand, sees change as essential for the Church's survival. He believes that the Church must evolve to remain relevant in a rapidly changing world. His vision is one of a Church that is open, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of its followers. His approach has won him many admirers, both within and outside the Church. They see him as a breath of fresh air, a leader who is not afraid to challenge the status quo and push for meaningful change. However, his vision has also met with resistance. Critics argue that his reforms could undermine the Church's foundations and lead to a loss of identity. The debate between tradition and progress is not just a theological one, but a deeply personal and emotional struggle for many. The tension between Cardinal Burke and Pope Francis is a reflection of this broader conflict. It is a battle for the soul of the Church, a struggle to define its future direction. As the world watches, the outcome of this clash will shape the Church for generations to come. The Church's journey through this period of tension and transformation is a testament to its resilience. It has faced countless challenges throughout its history, and each time it has emerged stronger. The current struggle is just another chapter in its long and storied history. As the Church navigates the complexities of the 21st century, it must find a way to honor its past while embracing the future. The balance between tradition and progress is delicate, but it is essential for the Church's continued relevance and vitality. This is the story of a faith that endures, a faith that evolves, and a faith that continues to inspire millions around the world. Cardinal Burke, born in America's heartland in the small town of Richland Center, Wisconsin. From a young age, he was drawn to the Church, finding solace and purpose within its sacred walls. His early years were marked by a deep devotion to his faith, a commitment that would only grow stronger with time. His faith, deeply rooted in tradition, was nurtured by the rich liturgical practices of the Church. He found beauty in the rituals, the solemnity of the Mass, and the timeless teachings that had been passed down through generations. This profound connection to tradition would become a defining feature of his spiritual journey. He rose through the Church's ranks, a scholar of canon law. His academic pursuits took him to the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, where he immersed himself in the study of the Church's legal system. His expertise in canon law earned him respect and recognition, paving the way for his ascent within the ecclesiastical hierarchy. His pronouncements, imbued with an unwavering belief in the Church's timeless teachings, resonated with many who longed for stability in a rapidly changing world. He became a vocal advocate for the preservation of traditional values, often speaking out against what he perceived as threats to the Church's moral foundation. He became a symbol of orthodoxy, a bulwark against the tides of change. His presence at Vatican events, adorned in full regalia, was a testament to his unwavering commitment to the Church's heritage. Pope Francis, on the other hand, emerged from a very different background. From the peripheries of Argentina, in the bustling city of Buenos Aires, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, who would become Pope Francis, was born. His early life was shaped by the vibrant culture and the struggles of the working-class neighborhoods. Unlike Burke, his path to the priesthood was marked by a deep engagement with the social issues of his time. A Jesuit priest shaped by service to the poor, Francis dedicated himself to the marginalized and the downtrodden. His ministry in the slums of Buenos Aires brought him face to face with the harsh realities of poverty and injustice. This experience profoundly influenced his vision for the Church, one that prioritized compassion and mercy over strict adherence to doctrine. His papacy, a radical departure from his predecessors, was characterized by a focus on inclusivity and outreach. From the moment of his inauguration, it was clear that Francis intended to steer the Church in a new direction. His humble demeanor and willingness to engage with people from all walks of life endeared him to many, but also raised concerns among traditionalists. He spoke of mercy, of compassion, of a church that embraces all, regardless of their sins or struggles. His message was one of hope and healing, a call to return to the core of Christ's teachings. This approach, however, was seen by some as a departure from the established norms, creating a sense of unease among those who valued the Church's traditional stance. Their paths, destined to collide, represented two distinct visions for the future of the Church. Burke, with his steadfast adherence to tradition, and Francis, with his progressive vision of a more inclusive Church, found themselves at odds. Their interactions were marked by a respectful yet palpable tension, each standing firm in their convictions. Burke, wary of Francis's reforms, viewed them as a potential threat to the Church's integrity. He believed that the changes proposed by Francis could lead to a dilution of the Church's core principles, a drift away from the teachings that had sustained it for centuries. His concerns were shared by many who feared that the Church was losing its way. He saw them as a threat to the Church's integrity, a dangerous drift from its core principles. Burke's public statements reflected his deep-seated apprehensions as he called for a return to the traditional values that he believed were essential for the Church's survival. His stance made him a prominent figure among those who resisted the changes. Francis, undeterred, continued his mission of renewal. He remained committed to his vision of a Church that was open and welcoming, one that reached out to those on the margins. His leadership style was characterized by a willingness to listen and to engage in dialogue, even with those who disagreed with him. He sought a Church that was less judgmental, more welcoming, a Church that truly embodied Christ's message of love. His efforts to create a more inclusive and compassionate Church were met with both praise and criticism. But he remained steadfast in his belief that this was the path forward. The story of Burke and Francis is a testament to the enduring struggle within the Church to balance tradition and progress, a journey that continues to shape its future. The clash inevitable. It ignited over issues that struck at the heart of Catholic doctrine: divorce, remarriage and the Eucharist, homosexuality and the family. These became battlegrounds. Burke, unyielding. He insisted on upholding the Church's traditional teachings. He warned against diluting doctrine for the sake of inclusivity. Francis, however, urged a more pastoral approach. He emphasized mercy and understanding, calling for the Church to accompany individuals on their journeys, even those who strayed from its teachings. The debate raged. It spilled from the hallowed halls of the Vatican into the public square. The faithful watched, divided. Some drawn to Burke's steadfast defense of tradition, others inspired by Francis's message of compassion and reform. Burke's challenge, a tempest in the Vatican. Burke, increasingly vocal. He questioned Francis's leadership, his pronouncements bordering on open dissent. He challenged the Pope's authority, an act almost unheard of in the Church's hierarchical structure. The Vatican shaken. Francis, known for his patience, faced a dilemma. To silence Burke would be to stifle dissent, to appear authoritarian. To ignore him, however, risked emboldening further opposition, potentially undermining his papacy. Francis chose a middle path. He removed Burke from prominent positions, sidelining him from the centers of power, yet he stopped short of any formal censure, allowing Burke to retain his title and status. Reactions to the clash. The world watched, captivated. The clash between Cardinal Burke and Pope Francis was not just a religious debate. It was a spectacle that drew the attention of millions. People from all walks of life, regardless of their faith, found themselves glued to their screens, eager to see how this unprecedented conflict would unfold. The media, both secular and religious, seized upon the conflict. Newsrooms buzzed with activity as journalists scrambled to cover every angle. Headlines were crafted to grab attention, and news anchors delivered updates with a sense of urgency. The story was everywhere, from the front pages of newspapers to the top stories on nightly news broadcasts. Headlines screamed of a civil war within the Church, the faithful divided. The narrative was clear. This was not just a disagreement, but a full-blown schism. People read these headlines with a mix of shock and curiosity, wondering what the future held for the Church they had known all their lives. Traditionalists rallied behind Burke, seeing him as a defender of the faith against liberal encroachment. For them, Burke represented a bastion of orthodoxy, a figure who stood firm against the tides of modernity. His speeches were met with applause, and his supporters were vocal, often organizing rallies and events to show their solidarity. Others praised Francis's courage, his willingness to challenge outdated doctrines and make the Church more relevant to the modern world. To his supporters, Francis was a visionary, a leader unafraid to confront the status quo. They saw his reforms as necessary steps to bring the Church into the 21st century, making it more inclusive and compassionate. Within the Vatican, a mixture of unease and cautious hope. The corridors of power were filled with whispers and speculation. Some officials were anxious, fearing that the conflict could lead to a deeper crisis. Others, however, were hopeful, believing that this clash could be the catalyst for much-needed change. Some cardinals and bishops shared Burke's concerns, viewing Francis's reforms with suspicion. They worried that these changes could undermine the very foundations of the Church. Meetings were held behind closed doors, and the air was thick with tension as they debated the potential consequences. Others, however, saw them as long overdue, a breath of fresh air in an institution often seen as stagnant and out of touch. These cardinals and bishops believed that the Church needed to evolve to stay relevant. They engaged in lively discussions, sharing their visions for a more progressive and inclusive future. The clash, while divisive, sparked a dialogue that many felt was necessary for the Church's growth and adaptation in a rapidly changing world. Please subscribe to our Channel History Documentary Hub for more insightful videos and intriguing content.